Yo, what is going on, guys? Today I got a fiery build I want to show you. Without further ado, let's jump right into the build. For our race of choice, it will be Dark Elf. Dark Elf is just such a good race right now. Other races I would recommend if you are not a Dark Elf: High Elf could work, Wood Elf could work, Imperial could work, Nord for more tankiness. All those races would work. For our health, we're putting 24 points into health, so we have 29,000 HP, 40 points into stamina. I mean, that allows us to get a crisp 22k. Our mag recovery is going to be 1500, with our stam recovery being 1300. Our weapon and spell damage is 4500, with our spell and weapon critical being 33%. Our spell and physical penetration is 4600, with our spell and physical resist being 17k and 1800 crit resist. Our stats fully buffed up will be 6100 weapon damage, 2500 recovery, 2300 stam recovery, 33% crit, with 26k physical and spell resistance on the front bar, and on our back bar, those resistances go up to 28k. For our Mundus of choice, I chose the I'd rather have the Astronaut than the Serpent. That's just my personal preference. You can go with whatever Mundus on you instead. If you want some more damage or tankiness, it's totally up to you. I just chose the Astronaut because I just like the extra sustain it gives you. Vampire Stage 3 is a must for every PvP build. That is just simply because of this passive right here, Undeath. Reduces your damage taken by up to 30% based on your missing health. This passive is insane, and this is why some people are so tanking Cyrodiil. It's just simply because of this passive right here, Undeath. This passive is completely broken, and I do think it needs a bit of a nerf. But while it's broken, I definitely think you should run it. It's completely broken. And then our food of choice will be Smoke Bear Haunt. Now, if you're not rich like me, you have to run Jewel's Mistral. This is the poor version of this food, but it basically does the exact same thing this food does, so don't worry, it's completely fine. Smoke Bear Haunt is just for those rich elites that just want the minor extra stats that this gives you. It's not very much whatsoever, so do not worry about it. If you have the money, you can spend it. If not, I don't recommend getting Smoke Bear Haunt over Jewel's Mistral. They basically do the exact thing. Our crit damage is 6%, and our critical healing will be 6% as well. Break free cost is 5k, roll dodge is 3500, and our block cost is 1k. Onto our sets here. Our first set of choice will be Baron here. This is just for the extra recovery. You can run the more tanky one or the penetration one. Do not run the weapon and spell damage one. You should either run this one, the recovery one, or the one that gives you armor, or the one that gives you penetration. One of those three. I personally think the recovery one is just the best one. And that's just simply because you use both your resources on a DK quite a bit. So having the extra sustain is always welcome. Our mythic of choice, it will be Sea Serpent Coil. And that is just simply because this mythic is very, very overpowered compared to the other mythics, in my opinion. If you don't like the 40% snare though, you can run Death Dealer's Fate. But this mythic is just too good to pass up. I may ask yourself why. That is simply because you gain Major Berserk. Gives you 10% more damage to everything, and then you on top of it get 430 weapon and spell damage. The amount of stats that this mythic gives you is just so high, and it's just too good not to run. There's ways to get around the 40% snare, by the way, such as bunny hopping and stuff like that, and with Major Expedition it's not that bad, so don't worry. Plus, this will only proc, by the way, when you're at full health. Our jewelry here will be all infused weapon damage glyphs, and our second set will be Scavenging Demise. I am not a good enough player. I need someone else to do the dirty work for me. Scavenging Demise allows me to do that with absolute ease, since when I deal critical poison damage to an enemy, the Scavenging Maw, which attacks your enemy, after 2 seconds, the Scavenging Maw deals 13,000 poison damage and inflicts minor vulnerability for 15 seconds, increasing their damage taken by 5%. This can occur once every 10 seconds. This set is super good on a DK, super good because you can run Shattering Rocks. Shattering Rocks is a stun that cannot be dodged or blocked. So basically, as long as they're not CC immune, and this is proccing, all you have to do is hit them with a Shattering Rocks. They cannot block, they cannot dodge it, so they will guaranteed get hit by the rocks here, and then will guaranteed get hit by the Scavenging Demise, which is a very hefty burst. And then on top of that, you can easily combo that with a nasty whip, and you can get some pretty good one-shots off. You can also combo that with the ultimate as well, so Shattering Rocks into ult, while the Scavenging Demise procs. For other set here will be Wretched Vitality. Now, I do like Wretched Vitality just simply because of how stat dense this set is. It gives you so much recovery. When you apply a major buff or debuff, you gain 260 magic and stamina recovery. And when you apply a minor buff or debuff, you grant 130 Magicka and stam recovery. So this set in total on the 5-piece basically gives you 400 mag and stam recovery, which is just insane for how many stats that this one set is giving you. And this basically allows you to run full damage everywhere else, but I still like the extra sustain, like through Baron here and through my Mundus zones such as Serpent, such as Atronach. And that's just simply because I prefer extra sustaining builds, because I find it easier to be aggressive when I have more resources in the tank. But if you aren't like me and you want maximum damage, you can totally sub this out, like I said, for more damage, and the Mundus zone once again here for more damage as well, just simply because Wretched Vitality will give you all the sustain that you will need on this build, and that is why I like it so much. The sword will be powered. You can run powered or defending here. It is totally personal preference. I prefer powered since I like to get more value out of my coagulating blood here, and powered allows me to do that. And then the weapon, and then the enchantment is weapon damage. This increases our weapon and spell damage by 174 for 5 seconds. This is just simply to increase my healing. You can run poisons here if you want, or you can run a Zorb stamina glyph here for some more stam sustain while you're on the back bar so you can block a little bit longer. Totally up to you, whatever you want. For a shield, I definitely recommend only running Sturdy. Sturdy is the best trait on the shield by far in my opinion. And then a max stam glyph just for more damage and healing on the back. And then for our front bar here, we are going to be running Master Perfected Maces. Masters Perfected gives you the second highest dot in the entire game. Twin slashes deal 1600 more damage for each hit on the initial attack and bleed. This damage is super high. This pumps your blood craze damage through the roof. Gives you the second highest dot in the entire game, which just allows you to have a lot more consistent pressure on your opponent and just be more overall aggressive since they'll always have a dot ticking on them. I just run Charge Flame here and then Nirnhone Poison. And the reason why I run Poison and Flame on the front bar is just simply because of combustion here. While you apply a burning to an enemy, you restore 1000 Magicka. When you apply a poison to an enemy, you restore 1000 stamina. These effects can occur once every 3 seconds or individual of each other. That means that they can proc simultaneously, so you can get them both Magicka and stam proc at the same time. So this is very good for some extra sustain. And then we chose to run Nirnhone with Charge here. Charge just so the flame chant procs more often, which gives us more sustain and gives us a bit more consistent damage. You can run Sharpen here. I don't think it's better than Charge, but Sharpen here if you don't like Charge. And then we were running Nirnhone. Nirnhone just gives us the most overall damage, and that's why you run Nirnhone. And then Maces here for the extra penetration they give. And the reason why you run Maces over something like swords or daggers or axes is because Maces will give you the most damage. And then for armor here, we're running 3 heavy on our chest, helmet, and shoulders, all reinforced prismatic glyphs. On our armor, we're running medium hands, legs, and feet here, all impen prismatic glyphs, and then 1 light waist. That will be impen prismatic glyphs as well. Now, if you don't have the money to get prismatic glyphs on all your pieces, you should definitely just get them on your big pieces. So that would be chest, helmet, and legs. This is by far the most important. And once you have this and you really like the build, I definitely would recommend getting it on your other pieces, but it's not super important because you're only losing like 500 or 1000 total stats here by not grabbing prismatic glyphs on your 4 smaller pieces. So you don't have to worry about it too much. Just make sure you get it on your big pieces though. That is very important since you do lose out on quite a bit of stats by not having them on your chest, helmet, and legs. Onto our skills here. For our first skill, it will be Molten Whip. Molten Whip is just because I like to whip my enemies into submission here and show them who's boss, and Whip allows me to do that with absolute ease. And the reason why you run this morph of the whip is because it increases your damage of your next Molten Whip by 20% and your weapon and spell damage by 100 for 15 seconds. This effect can stack up to 3 times. This will basically always be stacking because you'll be casting Noxious Breath and Plains of Oblivion. I went over the stun earlier, but we are running Shattering Rocks. The reason why you run this morph is I like the heal this gives you. The 8k heal just from smacking somebody against the ground is super good and allows you to have some extra survivability, which in my opinion is always useful. When the stun ends, they do take some extra damage, so that is nice. But remember that the stun cannot be blocked or dodged, so as long as they do not have CC immunity under them, you will always be able to stun them. Noxious Breath. This allows us to proc our Scavenging Demise, since this is our main way of getting poison damage besides our glyph here. Noxious Breath also gives us Meter Breach and a nice dot over time, so don't underestimate it. Blood Craze, this is a very good dot and it gives us a nice heal. You can run the other morph for this where you slow them, but I just prefer the heal. I'm always about a little extra sustain, a little bit more healing, just because I like it and it allows me to survive longer. It allows me to make more mistakes since I will have an extra heal going and so on and so forth. So If you're like me and you want to have an easier time, or if you make a mistake it's not as punishing, you should run this more, because it gives you a nice heal over time as well. And the Flames of Oblivion, just a nice damaging skill, and it gives you Major Prophecy and Savage, increase our weapon and spell crit by 2600, a must on the DK. And then we're running Ferocious Leap. The reason why you choose this morph is just simply for that nice 30k damage shield, which allows you to take an extra heaping beating when you're out there on the battlefield, and can save you quite a bit actually, since it is a massive shield and that can tank a lot of damage. Our backpack here, Rat or Race Against Time. This gives us Major Expedition, Minor Force, and increasing your movement speed by 30% and your crit damage by 10%. Activating this ability removes all snares, immobilization, and 4 seconds of immunity. Now, if you don't like Rat, you can definitely choose to run Elusive Myth here instead. Right here, it's basically just a teleport, but you don't get the remove all snares and immobilizations, so you could run Escapist Poisons here on the back bar instead. Degeneration here, this is our source of Major Brutality and Sorcery, increasing your weapon and spell damage by 20% for 24 seconds. And it gives you us a nice dot. You can run the DK version of this, but it doesn't have a dot, so I just don't like it at all. It is technically overall cheaper, but I'd rather have the extra pressure that Degeneration gives us over the cheaper option, which is Molten Weapons. So that's why I choose Degeneration. Resolving Vigor, an insane heal over time, plus it gives us Minor Resolve. Just the bread and butter of like 95% of PvP builds. You gotta run it, it's just too good to pass up. Coagulating Blood, amazing heal. It gives you a nice 10k heal and increase up to 50% based on your missing health. The gain Major Fortitude doesn't really matter since we are a vampire, that makes that part irrelevant. The additional healing based on your missing health can definitely come in clutch. Like if you're under 50% HP, for example, you're already healing for 25% more health on top of the 10k, so it can definitely save you in some clutch situations. And then Volatile Armor, I like this one because it is the damage morph. Now you can go for the shield morph and be a bit more of a coward, but I like this more since it allows you to catch people. If you're reversing a Nightblade, you can spam this to catch them out of stealth, and it's just another dot that you make an enemy have to worry about, so that's why I choose to run Volatile Armor. Corrosive Armor here, just one of the, if not the best ult in the entire game. This ult is so good. It makes you an unstoppable, unkillable killing machine here, and it increases your damage exponentially since all your direct damage ignores physical and spell resistance. Do not sleep on this ult. It is one of the best ults in the entire game. On to our CP. Our CP is pretty simple. Ironclad, Untamed Aggression, Deadly Aim, and Master at Arms. This is just to get the most damage out of our build, is through these three, and then Ironclad is for the extra tankiness. For our red tree here, it's Sustained by Suffering, Relentless, Pain Refuge, Survival Instinct. Pain Refuge and Sustained by Suffering will be procced 100% time, because we have no way to cleanse the negative effect on this build, so these will always be up, so you don't have to worry about these ever dropping, and they're just free buffs. Relentless here, you run this because majority of the time you will take a lot of damage when you get feared or stunned, and this gives you major protection, reducing your damage taken by 10% in those critical moments, which definitely can save your life, so I definitely recommend slotting this. And Survival Instinct, this reduces your core combat skills by 25%. This is very good. It increases your sustain exponentially and gives you a lot of extra survivability because of that. And then for the green tree, it's War Mount, Gifted Rider, Rationer, Liquid Efficiency, and Breakfall. And I'm going to show you the quick way to play the build. Don't worry too much about getting volatile on your opponents. It'll generally happen over the course of the fight. But for example here, you just want to make sure you always have Generation proc. Immediately start out by applying Blood Craze since it is your strongest dot. And then immediately go into the Noxious. And then I like to then proc Flames of Oblivion, and then I actually like to immediately stun into a whip to start the pressure. And then after that pressure is initially started, I like to then wait for my next CC until my Scavenging Maw will proc. And when it procs, you just always go for the rock. I'll show you the combos. So the second the Scavenging Maw comes out like that, you just want to immediately, basically the second you see that big boy come out, you immediately Shattering Rocks your opponent, then you just immediately whip afterwards. So you would Shattering Rocks immediately, and then whip, and then you just continue on with your day. You can learn to time it later, but at the start, it's a generally good way to start combo. 99% of the time, it'll still hit, along with the whip. And if you can hit them at the same time, right, you have a 12k whip. Scavenging Maw does 18k, right, and then you have 12,000 whip fully buffed up. So that alone is hitting for 30k, not mentioning any of your dots hitting or whatsoever. That's just from 2 abilities. And if you combine that with a leap or something like that, it can definitely hit like a freight train. If you guys have any questions regarding the build, I'd be happy to answer anything down in the comments below. And if you guys did enjoy the video, it'd mean a lot to me. Hit that like button and subscribe. And with that, I hope you guys all have a fantastic day.